This is a first draft of a movie to be called A Picture of Sam. Paragraph. Thinking of writing, never mind. Samantha was born into a military family, and she traveled a lot with her family. And as she got older, she started to get an interest in being an artist, painter. And she worked hard at that. Went to various schools all over the world, had some good instructors and had some not so good instructors. And she was good at painting, but painting is being an artist is very difficult. And she just didn't quite have it. But during the course of trying to become an artist, she learned photography. And she could discern the different lights and textures, and she knew how to almost read Mother Nature as far as getting a nice background. And so she eventually went into the area of photography. She opened up a studio in Los Angeles and was doing pretty good. One day a friend of hers who was in charge of this museum, they were going to have a display of various local artists, and they didn't get quite the participation they wanted, and so they had extra space available in this display. So he went to her and said, "Would you mind, I've seen your photography, would you mind displaying? You pick out 3 or 4 different pictures you like, and we'll set up a nice display for you. And we're going to have other photographers too, because we just didn't get enough other artists." She thought, well, there's no charge for it. It's good advertising. Why not do it? So she did it. And she kind of hid herself in the background because she want to see people's reaction to her her pictures, portraits, photography. And most of them seemed to enjoy it. She had her little cards there, and if you took the card, she's hoping they'd call her. And this one elderly gentleman came by, and he looked at them and seemed to enjoy it. And he also took one of these cards. Well, about a week later, she got a call from this elderly gentleman. And the reason she recognized him just on the phone, because she never even talked to him, but he kind of described himself, and his voice was very, very, very pleasant, but you could tell he was an older gentleman. And what he wanted her to do, he said he had a ranch like 50 miles out of Los Angeles, and he wanted her to come there to take pictures of him, and he would pay, for the travel and the time, etc. That the money was not the problem. And then she asked him, well, what pictures do you want? What type? And he said, well, I want a portrait of my face, and I want a picture of my cat, and I want a picture of me standing with an oar, to paddle a boat. I'll explain that to you further when you come up to my ranch. Well, she was a little hesitant, but she needed the business, and it sounded good. And she remembered when she saw this gentleman and then talked to him on the phone that he was seemed to be a nice person. So she drove up there. First picture with the portrait, no problem. Probably took an hour because she wanted to get it just right. And one of her procedures would be that she would give him 10 pictures of his portrait, and then he would pick out the best of the 10. And then she would maybe have to do a little retouching, and but it'd still be basically all natural. The cat was terrible. It wouldn't stay still. Oh my God. That took hours. And she's just about ready to give up. And she explained to him that this is the first time she's ever taken a picture by itself of a cat. She said, I've taken pictures where cats have been in the picture, but I've never taken a portrait of a cat. You can't say smile to it because it just does what it wants. But finally, she got the picture done. But by that time, though, it was dark. And then he explained to her about this picture of the oar. You see, when he went to college, he went to Yale. And he was on the rowing team. He was the captain. And it brought back fond memories to him. And so he wanted a picture of him in his bathing suit, standing, he had a swimming pool, standing by the swimming pool to represent the water, because he couldn't stand by the river or a lake, and holding this oar, because that would kind of remind him of his rowing days, he was very, very happy at that time in his life. Not that he isn't now. So but that picture was going to be taken outside, and it's now nighttime. He says, you can drive home if you wish, but if you don't mind, we'll have dinner. There's accommodations for you that are separate. And then early in the morning, we can take the picture, and then you can be on your way. She liked the old man. She found him very, very sexually attractive. She didn't want to say that. She didn't want to say anything like that. But she fantasized things. Anyway, well, she ended up doing that. And during they ate and talked, and she really felt comfortable with him, and she really, found him exciting. But she wouldn't say anything to him. During the night, in this house, a rather large house, during the night, she went down to where his room was and was going to knock on the door and invite herself in. But then she just couldn't. She later found out that he did the same thing, that he found her attractive, and he wanted to go knock on her door, but didn't do that. And the two of them didn't meet, paths during the night crossing. In the morning, they got up, and she was getting ready for her picture, and then she thought, the swimming pool's right there. I'll just wear my bikini while I take these pictures, and I'll explain to him. He may wonder why I'm in a bikini, and I'll explain to him that I just felt that after I take this picture that I would go swimming. So she got all her stuff together, and they went out he met her out at the swimming pool, and he was at his oar. And he naturally was in his bathing suit, because that's the way they would row the boat. And they just looked at each other, looked longingly in their eyes. He put the oar down and hugged her, caressed her, and she hugged him back and caressed him. He was so polite, nice, his hands felt various parts of her body, and she was so aroused she couldn't control herself, and she grabbed parts of his body. Anyway, they put off making love. They both wanted to, but she was the type that work mattered. And so they took the 10 pictures as done before. But after that was done, they made love. And she said he was so polite, gentle, caring. He talked to her and expressed great love. And he told her how being older, he hasn't had much opportunity, but he and her came within seconds of each other. The love was so intense and enjoyable. She left him there. I had to go home. And they both promised each other that they would meet again. And then she gave him, and he responded, a deep kiss. Their tongues intertwined. And she left. She kept thinking I should call him and get back to him. And she later found out that he was saying the same thing. But they never did. She then read in the paper that the old man had died. Nobody really knew about her. She wasn't invited to the funeral or anything like that. But she went to the cemetery to observe him and give her respects to him, even if she did it, quietly and away from the family members. When she got there at the cemetery, there's quite a few people there, and she walked around and she looked at the casket. And then one of the gentlemen came up to her and said, "Oh, hi, I'm his son." I forget the relationship. "And how did you know him?" And she said, and then for the first time she noticed, "I'm the photographer that took those pictures." And they had the 3 pictures she took on easels. And she said, "Oh, I'm the one that took those pictures." "Oh," he said, "he talked of you often. He wanted to call you to have you come do more pictures. He said he missed you, but he just never got around to it." This one picture here with him having a robe, standing there by the pool, we the family members often thought about it. We see your portraits, very, very good, but on the one with him rowing, he kind of has a smile. And we wondered, what was he thinking of, or why was he smiling? Samantha thought to herself, "I know." She didn't say anything to them, of course. She thanked the family for being nice, and they thanked her for the portraits, and she left. And she often thinks about that. Thank you very much.